In today's video, we are going to be breaking down Sharife Cooper's basketball shooting form. He is going to be one of the top players in this next year's upcoming draft, most likely, and today we need to break his shooting form down so that we can learn how to shoot better ourselves. Let's get down and let's check out Sharife Cooper. Okay, so the first thing that I always like to look at is the feet, and what are the feet doing? Well, as we can see from this clip, both feet are on his toes, which is absolutely fantastic. That's going to allow him to get up into his shot much faster. We have to remember that our calves are some of the fastest muscles in our body, and because of that, we want to be on our toes when we take our shot. Next, what we're going to be looking at is his knees, and where are his knees really at? Well, how we like to really break down or at least look at a player is to see if their shoulders are in line with their knees, in line with their toes, which Sharife Cooper's knees are not in line with his toes. So I would personally be looking at him saying he will not have much range on his shot. However, as we know, he does have a very good shot, so I will be saying that, of course, if he's shooting at the college or even pro level above 35%, you generally don't want to be doing any major changes. However, at this point, if he was to bring his knees back just a bit and his shoulders forward just a bit as well, he will be able to have a much more powerful or deeper shot. Next, we like to look at the knees as well and see where they are pointing. And as we can see where the feet and knees are pointing, they are both pointing towards the rim. We also can see that his shoulders as well as his hips are squared towards the basket. And what I mean by that is both shoulders are roughly the same distance to the rim as each other, and this is going to allow you to be having a very straight shot. So from his shooting pocket up into his shooting form or up into his set point, we notice that he only really uses his shoulder as a hinge. You want to have as little movement as possible. The reason why you want to have as little movement as possible in your shot, the reason is because you don't want to have all that many things going on to then mess up on. If one little movement doesn't happen or happens too far, then you start getting a shot that is going to be not as consistent, or you may go through more and more of those cold streaks that you may have been going through yourself. So we see that he brings that ball up into his set point. His set point seems to be on the right side of his face, roughly at eye height. We also notice that it looks like his palm is on the ball. However, when he gets up to this point, we do see a little bit of a shadow, but that could be just because the light is hitting from this side, but it really does look like the palm is on the ball. Now, some players do like to shoot with their palm on the ball, and the reason for that is they find, even myself, that you will have a more consistent shot. However, there is a downfall to that, and that is if you shoot with your palm on the ball, if anybody knocks your body, or if you are not balanced going straight up into your shot, that's going to make an inconsistent shot. You really want to have your fingertips on that ball. It's going to allow you to control that ball much better. Now, from his set point, once he brings that ball up, once he's about there, he starts to bend his elbow, and he doesn't have a 90-degree angle on his elbow. He actually has a 45-degree angle. Now, lots of players do shoot like this. This does give them more power on their shot. However, there is a reason why a lot of players do shoot with a 90-degree angle like myself, and that is because the angle from here to here takes a couple thousandths of a second, sometimes a couple hundredths of a second, and that could mean the difference between a blocked shot and a non-blocked shot. So that's why some players do shoot with a 90-degree angle on the elbow and not a 45, but again, this is not something that you need to change. This is just a analysis of the shooting form. When he does get up into his shot, he does have good energy transfer. Once his legs go straight, that's when he starts to release that ball, or at least start extending the elbow. And then we do really see, once he's here to here, with the way that his hand does flick, we do notice that there is a high probability that he does have the ball on his palm until, of course, it's rolling off of his fingers, which is good. And he does flick his wrist a lot, which is going to give a lot of rotation on that ball. However, I do notice in other clips that there is not a ton of rotation on that ball, so that might be something that he might want to try and do. It allows that ball to bounce into the rim much easier. Something we also do notice is that his elbow does finish above his forehead and above his eye, which does give a lot of arc on his shot. Now, you want to have a lot of arc on your shot because, of course, when you have more arc on your shot, the rim looks bigger to the basketball. And then when we look from this angle, we do see that there is very little space between the palm and the ball up until he gets into his set point. And that's when he starts putting a little bit of space between the palm and the ball, which is good. That does give him a little bit more control over that ball. And then when he releases that ball, he actually flicks his fingers, not necessarily his wrist, until the end. So that may eventually create some cold streaks in the future because there's now more movement when it comes to the hand versus just being the wrist and keeping your fingers in the same slightly bent formation, which will allow you to have a more consistent shot. But at the same time, if he doesn't have any cold streaks, then that's all set. We also do notice from his offhand, his left hand, that he does not have that much, if not any at all, thumb flick, which is good because a thumb flick could create an inconsistent shot in the future. However, we do not see that in players like Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving, so that again doesn't necessarily always happen when you have a thumb flick. And as we can see here, he doesn't necessarily have a lot of thumb flick, if any at all. And of course, the ring finger, middle finger, and pointer finger are the last fingers that seem to touch the ball last. And he does release his follow through quite quickly. So he releases that ball, he keeps his arm up there and drops almost right away. Now, if he wanted to have a bit more consistency on his shot, he would leave it up there a bit longer. Maybe that is why I don't see a ton of rotation on that ball. As we can see, that ball still goes around just under roughly 2.5 times. So you generally want to have 2.5 rotations on that ball or more, and that's going to give you a nice soft landing on that rim. And of course, the last thing I always like to look at too, sometimes earlier on in the video, is the shoulder to elbow. Is that in line with the net? Which, as we can see here, it is in line with the net. And we also see that the elbow is, when it comes to being from the angle of the net, the elbow is underneath the ball, even though from this angle it is slightly off. But if we were looking at it from this angle, from the rim, we would actually see the elbow underneath the ball. Sharife Cooper has a fantastic shooting form, even though he does shoot from the side of his head. There's a lot of players who have shot from that set point in the past, so I'm not too worried about that. He's going to be a fantastic player. Some of the things I would fix is the knees in line with the shoulders and toes, but that's not necessarily a massive thing until he gets a bit older into the pros. He might find himself having a faster, more accurate, or at least more consistent shot in the future, and maybe a deeper shot as well, because especially when you get to the NBA level, that three-point line is very far. I hope that you have enjoyed. I will see you guys again next time.